What's up, guys, and welcome back to another episode of the Primal Podcast. This one is so interesting. My guest today is Mr. Fergus Kerrigan, one of the owners and founders of Ethos CBD. CBD stands for cannabidiol, and it's a compound that has the potential to have absolutely incredible effects on your health and wellness. Now, shout out to Mr. Pat Dively for making the connection between myself and Fergus, but I was so excited to have Fergus come on because I've been interested in CBD and the endocannabinoid system for a long, long time. And to have somebody come on who has not only developed a product range that is really helping people, but who also has a very, very deep understanding of the landscape around CBD, THC, the rules, the regulations, the products, how they work and what's going on, is a real treat for me and you, because it lets us learn a lot more about something that could really enhance and improve our own lives and our wellness. Now, Fergus's story starts with his own personal health issues. He took a dive into functional medicine and discovered the world of CBD and all of these wonderful compounds that could help him improve his own health and wellness. In this episode, he breaks down CBD and explains to me the differences between CBD and THC, hemp and marijuana, what his products are, how they can help people, and we get into functional medicine and how we should all empower ourselves and learn more about these different compounds, and not just these compounds, but many other aspects of health and wellness, so we can take care of ourselves and live our most robust and resilient lives. I don't know if you're picking up a theme in this podcast, but this is it. Now, if you're watching, you'll see these lovely products here beside me. This podcast is not sponsored. However, Fergus was kind enough to bring me in some of his products so I can test them for myself, see how they feel, and let you know what the results are. So if you're following the Instagram page over the next few weeks, you'll see me giving some updates on my experiences with Fergus's products. But products aside, CBD is something that we should all start to understand, specifically the endocannabinoid system, which has such a huge role to play in so many different conditions in our bodies. This was such a fascinating podcast, and Fergus is a real gent. I really enjoyed this conversation, and I hope you do too. Enjoy. Welcome to our shared journey to find the answers to questions about health, wellness, nutrition, performance, life and success, and to craft the most resilient, hardy and happy humans you've ever seen. Welcome to the Primal Podcast. Mr. Fergus Kerrigan.
Dan, how are you?
I'm very good, thank you. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Well, thanks for coming on this lovely, fresh Friday morning.
Yeah, it's pretty wintry out there.
Yeah, I'm laughing. How's my hat? Can we see the? I'm like a walking advertisement
You're
for
on
Ethos.
brand.
Yeah, you were very good. I'm just going to point out straight away, you're very good to bring me these Ethos CBD products. Thank you very much.
No problem.
Really, really looking forward to this conversation. We had a good phone call last week, and I've been fascinated, as I said to you on the call, with CBD for a while, but not particularly well researched because I'm lazy. So what I do is get the guy who knows and bring him in and have a chat.
Yeah.
So I'm really looking forward to having a chat about this today. But would you mind, just for listeners who mightn't be familiar with you or your story, just to give us a brief kind of recap about who you are, first of all.
Cool.
And then Ethos CBD, how that project started, and bring us right up to today.
Yeah, perfect. So my name's Fergus Kerrigan. I'm from Galway originally. I was kind of working in the corporate world out of college. Studied to be a lawyer, quickly went to San Francisco, worked in a law firm for a while. Beautiful office, beautiful city, but really hated the work. So I realised that wasn't for me. So came back to Dublin, worked in kind of business management consulting for a few years in a couple of firms there. And again, got to a point where, yeah, there was quite a lot of learnings in it. I thought it was definitely a good foundation to learn business skills that I could transfer, but I always had this, I suppose, entrepreneurial itch. Like my friends or my partner Amy would know that I always had either the notes on my iPhone or a book where I'd be writing down business idea after business idea. Some of them I'd take quite far. Some of them, they would just be scrapped, the next week. But for one reason or another, those business ideas never went that far. Like some of them were pretty ludicrous. There was one funny story was when the Pope was coming to Ireland to do mass there. I don't know. I think it was 2016, but I'd heard a story about a guy from Galway when the Pope came previously in 1979, who had bought a load of chairs and rented the chairs out to people to sit at the mass, and he'd made a lot of money. So I was like, okay, I'm going to replicate this this time around in 2016. So like I'd done a lot of research, been contacting all these suppliers in China about the chairs, and yeah, this was going to be my first million. But yeah, anyway, it fell through, the deal I had with the Chinese to get the chairs. But when the Pope came, it ended up being this like monsoon of a day, and it was a washout, and not the people didn't go, and so that was one of the ones I got away with. I could have lost a lot of money.
How many chairs were you going to buy?
I think I had like 10,000 chairs or 20,000 chairs, and I had all my friends looped in of where around the city we would position them to rent them out. People getting off the buses coming from the country that we would, give them the chairs. Anyway, it was all planned out, but it fell through. That was just one idea. But yeah, it's just been constant kind of ideas in my head. And my family, my dad and my mum would have both been entrepreneurs. Looking back, I was like, I didn't really see that when I was, when I went to college and stuff. Maybe I was just kind of following the system a little bit. Okay. And that's like a generational thing as well. Like a lot of our parents maybe didn't go to college. So it was like, okay, I want to get my son and daughter to college. And that was the main thing. So maybe we were listening to that and it's okay, I need to go and do my law degree, something solid. And maybe I didn't open my eyes early enough to like entrepreneurship. And that's really where my passion lied. So it came to me a little bit later, kind of more, I'd say like 22, 23. That's when it started to, there was just constant ideas. So yeah, I'd always had that itch to get out of the corporate world. And then I kind of hit on CBD through a kind of a couple of personal stories. And that's where the idea for Ethos sparked. And I was like, okay, now this is the idea I want to, this is more than the chairs. Like this is the idea I want to take further and make a business out of it. So we made that leap, probably looking at the business 3 or 4 years, but we're only, I suppose, selling a year. So it took a good while to get it off the ground. So right in the middle of the pandemic, then we launched Ethos. Yeah. Great timing. You have to do it now. Like there's no other timing to it. Like you hear people, there's no waiting around. Like I think the timing is just in the moment. So that's just how the cards were dealt. And I don't think it's has adversely affected us. Like I think it helped us in certain ways. So yeah, you can have all these great plans. Like we were hoping to launch it, say 6 or 9 months earlier. Certain things fell through. So yeah, you just kind of have to roll with it.
Yeah, it's a great lesson. And I love that you said that there is no better time than now when you want to do something. People are always talking about big life decisions, like when we have a child or get married or start my business or do that thing I want to do. And it's a cliche, but it might all end tomorrow. So there is no better time to do it than now.
Yeah, I've really learned that, like through some personal circumstance over the last few years. And again, it's probably, I think there's a lot more information out there now that probably, again, that our parents didn't have. So for them was all this focus on retirement and getting that pot of money together for this beautiful day, whenever it's going to happen. And a lot of people don't make it there, or their pension, it's their pension like fails, there could be a bad time in the economy and that kind of thing. So it's all this dream. And again, that was just companies that package these beautiful houses in Spain and all this. But I think people now, with the information we have, I'm hoping more people can realize that like it is about the now and really to go for it and stop waiting for this day to come. Like, so I know it can be cliched and overused, and for people who are struggling, like it can maybe be a little bit of hearing this all the time can be maybe a bit irritating. But the more that we can try, really enjoy today now. Like that's the thing. Myself and Amy, the partner in the business, and my fiance have been saying like. If it's a success in 5 years, but geez, we haven't enjoyed any of the 5 years, like it's absolutely pointless. So easier said than done. You have your very stressful days, but like we have to enjoy the journey of, we have to try celebrate the little wins and reflect a little bit more. And it is easier said than done, but you have to stop sometimes and go, geez, we've actually done quite a bit in the last 2 or 3 months. That, like, if we'd known, if we'd been in this position, if we'd looked back and we'd been in this position, we would have been delighted where we are. So it's trying to enjoy that journey a bit, as cliche as sometimes sounds.
It is cliche, but it's funny because I explore this with a lot of different people, and already I've dragged you off topic, but welcome to the Primal Podcast.
Yes.
What is topic? I explore this with a lot of people from a lot of different backgrounds and perspectives in living in the now, and it's cliche and all that kind of stuff, but I'm a huge believer in it. My personal experience, I always get pulled out of the now. I'm always freaking myself out about the future and what if and buts and all that kind of stuff. So I know what that feels like, and most people do as well. And I also sympathize, because you mentioned there quite rightly, people who are in difficult circumstances. I do sympathize, because sometimes someone might listen to a podcast with me and you on a Friday morning, chilling out with a cup of tea. Everything is great and dandy. We can have these great philosophical conversations. It's not like that for everybody. I feel very privileged to be able to have you here and have this conversation with you. But many people are really struggling to make ends meet or feed their families or take care of sick relatives. So I always try and find someone wiser than me to have this conversation with. And I've gotten some really good answers and information from lots of people. Everybody does have a choice, even in some of the most dire situations in the world. And I can't remember who I was speaking about, maybe it was on, about this. Even somebody who's in a concentration camp, or somebody who's really on the poverty line and in a horrible, horrible situation, they still have decisions. Now, they're not the same decisions and liberties that I have and that you have, but there's still a decision there. But most of the people who are listening to me right now aren't in those situations. They're pretty much on a par with us. Now, there's different circumstances, obviously, but that means that we have a lot more power to make decisions. And one of those decisions is to appreciate things that are now. And that sounds cliched, but gratitude for what we have right now and to really embrace and enjoy that. So when I hear you say, now is the time, I've talked to so many people about this, it's bringing all this stuff up for me. It absolutely sounds cliche, but it's so true. Now is the time to do all these different things, and for you, obviously, it's resulted in an amazing journey over the last year. But you mentioned to me, and I listened to your podcast with Pat Divilly before, and shout out to Pat, because he hooked us up. He put the connection together. Good man, Pat. But I listened to your podcast, and I know that you have the backstory that you mentioned there. Would you mind talking to me a little bit about that story and what led you specifically down this route in terms of health and wellness? You had your own personal experiences.
Yeah, so it is about 4 years ago. I went through a period, probably, I think it was around 9 months of like really poor health. And the best way I could describe it was I just kind of had like a cloud over my head every day. I was irritated, had a bit of a kind of a headache that didn't go away. I was just a little bit hot, like when the flu was coming on, but it never got as bad as a flu. So I wasn't in a position that I couldn't go to work every day because I didn't feel that bad. But when I was at work, I wasn't able to really perform. I had just, brain fog. Like I played a lot of sports all the way up. Like I was very fit at the time. But then I noticed then when I was I couldn't get through even a half a game I couldn't breathe properly. And I just didn't really know what was happening. So it went on for a certain, then I was like, okay, I have to take a bit of action. So went to the doctor, I think it was 2 or 3 times. And I suppose my main symptom at the time was a kind of a migraine or pain in my sinuses side of my head. So I received 2 or 3 rounds of antibiotics to treat that pain. But I was just getting worse and worse after taking them. So then I remember my mum brought me to a Chinese medicine doctor. I think I tried acupuncture. I was kind of in that position, and a lot of people get there where you're just willing to try anything because your day-to-day life, when you're healthy, there's all these things you want, there's a huge list of them. But then when you're unhealthy, there's only one thing you want, and it just becomes very simplistic. You just want to be able to do those normal things. You're not thinking about anything else. So I was kind of in that position that I was willing to try anything. Still nothing was working. So then I went to a family friend who's a functional medicine doctor, and she did a complete review of what was happening in my life, where I was living, the conditions, what I was eating, everything. She just went to the core of it, and I had like a really good 2-hour meeting with her. And then she from that analysis, she pinpointed that it was, I'd done kind of intolerance tests as well to see the food I was eating, and there was a couple of things that showed up there around dairy and yeast. So she reckoned that it was a gut issue, and that my microbiome had become damaged, and that I think it's called leaky gut is the term for it. So basically it's when your gut becomes permeable and your gut starts to look at certain foods as kind of invaders on your body, and they seep into your bloodstream, and then they just cause inflammation. They just cause chaos in the body. So that's what was happening with me. And then these antibiotics, conversely, like, you know, they were trying to help me, but they were actually just making things worse, because they were actually destroying all the good bacteria, unbeknownst to myself. So every time I was going to the doctor, it was actually just making things worse, unfortunately. So she put me on a completely new diet at the time, cut out some foods. Sugar was the big thing. So
this comes back to being sugar, doesn't it?
Yeah. So that was a real eye opener for me. As I said, I didn't have in my view, I didn't have it was just a normal diet. Like, I thought I ate pretty well, but looking back now, I was having a few squares of chocolate every night with the lads. I was probably, when we were living with the lads, and there was probably a good bit of sugar in my diet. And I have a sweet tooth, but yeah, her big thing was sugar, cut it out. So I'd say I cut out 95% of my sugar, a lot more plant-based. And then she introduced me to a few food supplements at the time. And then CBD was one of them. So that was kind of the first thing that sparked my interest in CBD. I'd always had a kind of an interest in the cannabis space where I was going, because when I was living in San Francisco, it was starting to take off there. They had the dispensaries and that kind of thing, and it was talked about more. And then simultaneously to my own personal issues, like 2 family members were using it for pain, and then another neighbor was using, who was going through cancer treatment and was struggling with her platelets levels, which have to be at a certain level to be able to get your chemotherapy, and nothing was really working from her, and she took CBD, and boom, the platelets levels went up. Yeah. So I was like, okay, all these things are happening at the one time, and then I needed to get CBD for myself. There was nothing I could really find in Ireland. There was a couple of companies doing it, but I didn't think there was anything of real quality and reputable enough. So I went to America at the time I bought products in from America at the time. So I was like, all right, why can't we do something here? And then I seen the industry was starting to kind of take off. So that's what we want to do products here, and we want them to be products that target specific needs. So CBD being the main element of them, the core of them, but blended with other adaptogens, which are herbs that kind of help the body fight stress and have been used like for hundreds of years in the East mainly. Mm-hmm. But now we're starting to open our eyes to them in the West.
I'm a big believer, by the way.
In do you take adaptogens?
My first exposure, well, I had always heard about them, knew about them, but again, very lazy, didn't do my research. So just kind of like, that's a very interesting area there. Someone's going to come along and tell me about it one day. But Four Sigmatic, the company Four Sigmatic, and their mushroom products, they put it in their coffees and their teas and stuff like that. And I was like, I'm going to give it a crack. It's a mainstream product. I'll try this. And I really, really did notice a difference, because I'm very, very sensitive to caffeine. One of their products had, I think it was ashwagandha in it. And I really noticed when I drank a cup of this, super calm, super clean energy. The caffeine didn't set me off. So I was like, okay, there's definitely something here. And then when I found out you had these type of herbs and adaptogenic substances in your products, I was, again, very, very interested. So you've started explaining there before I cut you off.
No. The ashwagandha is our big, so that's in our balance oil. So it's the CBD and ashwagandha blend, which is like by far our biggest seller.
Really?
And when we decided to put ashwagandha into it, say 2.5 years ago, like nobody knew what ashwagandha was. Yeah. It's been fortuitous for us in a business perspective, because now ashwagandha has blown up. Like ashwagandha is on everyone's radar, more so nearly than CBD. So funnily enough, some people are buying that product just because nearly has ashwagandha in
That's
it.
gas, isn't it?
Yeah, so like 2 years ago it was Ashwell what? And now everyone knows about it. So that's been lucky for us. But yeah, it was about blending these adaptogens and other herbs with the CBD to target specific kind of well-being needs. And there was a lot of products out there. It was quite confusing from a customer's perspective, like how to decide between one CBD oil over the other. So it's it's making it easier for the customer as well. Like, we've designed this product for this need. If you can relate to that need, and that's something that you might need, then that's the kind of product for you.
Okay.
So it just makes it even a little bit easier for the customer.
So let's get into the science a little bit about it.
Yeah,
'Cause
yeah.
some people might be listening and might not be familiar with CBD. So would you mind giving me a bit of a breakdown on CBD and what it is first, and then we can kind of go a little bit deeper.
Cool, yeah. So CBD is a molecule that's found in the flowers of the hemp plant. So hemp is part of the cannabis family. It's Cannabis sativa is the strain of it. So it's like they say it's like the cousin to the marijuana plant. So they look very similar, have similar smells, but the hemp wouldn't be as strong. But their chemical makeup is what makes them different. So in marijuana, you have a lot of, or weed as people know it, you have a lot of the THC level is very high. It could be, 15% and up, and it's getting stronger as they breed different strains together. So THC level is very high. So THC is the other famous molecule. That's the molecule that can produce psychoactive effects, or the high. That's sold kind of on the street here in Ireland, but in dispensaries and stuff in the States. Hemp, being the cousin of marijuana, hemp instead has high CBD content and very low THC. So CBD doesn't produce any of these psychoactive effects. It's been, the World Health Organization have come out and put their stamp of approval on it that it's very safe to be taken. So that's been a great approval for the industry. So yeah, that's the main difference, I suppose, between CBD and THC. One has a psychoactive effect, one doesn't. So yeah, CBD, it's found in the hemp plant. Luckily that we can grow hemp legally in Ireland and in other European countries. And yeah, CBD's kind of shot to fame over the last few years. The molecule is extracted from the plant and then it's added to different products. So be it an oil product like we have, or we have a balm that's used in the skin. It's used in drinks, food products. It got a little bit crazy for a while because with all these new industries and it gains a bit of momentum. People are starting to add it to everything just to make a quick buck. There was companies in the States that were adding it to pillows and stuff. No way that the CBD can even be absorbed into your body, but just add it to everything and make some quick money. And for us as a company, and I'm sure other companies out there as well in the space, that was it was pretty annoying because you're trying to create products for health reasons, and to help people. And a lot of this kind of noise and adding it to everything is nearly taken away from the therapeutic properties of it. And if I can see why people looking in from the outside and they're just oh, it's in that. And then people are hearing it does all these things, that just creates a confusion and a bit of doubt and a bit of skepticism or cynicism about it. So that's not helpful. Now those products, they are dying away already, and there's been a bit of a consolidation. So yeah, that's a little bit about CBD and kind of where it comes from the plant.
Can I just say on that point, you made two very good points there. One, a very common misconception: CBD does not have psychoactive properties.
Yes.
Even in bigger doses, doesn't have psychoactive.
No, it doesn't.
Okay, because that's one thing.
And it's non-addictive.
And it's non-addictive, yeah. Because there is a misconception among some people who don't understand CBD. Oh, that's cannabis. Oh, it's addictive. Oh, it's a gateway drug, and all of a sudden, so that's common misconception one.
That's the major one, and that's what we're trying to do a lot, is educate on that, because people get recommended it by their friends and stuff, and when they're going into pharmacies or health food stores, they're still afraid to ask for it. I think I was saying to you before, it's like condoms in the 80s or 90s. It's have you got the CBD? So that's one misconception or myth we're trying to bust.
And then you pointed out a very important thing with trends. It's trends. It's the same as anything CBD. Anything that's effective, it appears on people's radars because it's effective. So CBD oil is obviously effective. So, CBD oil. Then everybody wants a piece of it, so it blows up, and they're putting it into everything, like whey protein water, protein bars, protein fucking everything. But there's a couple of issues with that, as you said. The dosage might be completely off the wall. The type of product they put in there with whey protein, particularly, there's so many different types. And how it's formulated and how it's made, the bioavailability, the efficacy, none of that is done in a vast majority of these kind of trend products. You can even, something like mental health is even the same. obviously mental health's an important issue, but when people realize that other people are interested in this, there's a business opportunity to capitalize on it. It's everywhere. There's a form of kind of social wealth to be gained from being part of this movement, but it discredits the actual real science or the real issue. And you see this with loads of issues, but it's almost exactly what you've described there with CBD as well. It comes on, oh, this works. Everybody puts it on everything. It undermines the real value that some people could get from it. Because I know many people, myself included, who would have taken CBD products in the past that I now know are way subpar in terms of dosage or the type of CBD or the strain or where it came from with the purity, and didn't have any positive effects, and it tasted brutal. So now you're gone off CBD forever, where it could potentially have really, really beneficial effects for you or your family. So it's just these trends you see.
It is, yeah. And it can get frustrating.
Very frustrating.
Like it can get frustrating, but I suppose we just need to stick to the reason we got involved in it.
Yeah.
And I think we're seeing now after a year, like people understand, they're bought into the quality. They know what we're trying to do. They know we're not trying to be like a flash in the pan, that we're trying to do it for the right reasons. And then hopefully that will, people will see that, and hopefully that will win out from the business perspective.
Yeah.
But yeah, it can be a little bit of a bugbear,
Yeah.
but that's what we have to do with.
Okay, so you mentioned that's what CBD is. What effect does it have on the human body, on this endocannabinoid system?
Yeah.
This beautiful ECS I keep seeing everywhere.
Yeah, the ECS that like a lot of people won't know about, the endocannabinoid
fascinating.
system. It is fascinating. And the research is in its real infancy with regards to the endocannabinoid system and in cannabis in general. So because there was such taboo over cannabis, and it's kind of been banned for like 100 years or whatever, people weren't investing in the medical research. But now that things have changed and cannabis is being both from the THC and CBD side, that it's being approved as medicines in the States, and now Germany they already have a medical market. Now they've legalized it from a recreational point of view, and it's nearly every week there's a new country from a medical point of view. So now that there's money to be made in the medicines, there's so much investment in the research, and there's like 600 or 700 clinical trials ongoing at the moment.
Wow,
so
700.
Yeah,
wow.
So wait till you see over the next and doctors aren't really speaking about it now, but wait till you see over the next 5 to 10 years, once those trials are finished and come to fruition, and the research that's been done on the endocannabinoid system, which we will get into.
Yeah.
Like you'll see so many new medicines, you'll see so many new uses for it, and they'll just completely transform it.
It's kind of like the psychedelic research at the moment,
That's it.
John Hopkins and all that. All of a sudden, I listened to someone funny the other day. They said 40 years ago, everybody was into psychedelics and MDMA and LSD and mushrooms and all this kind of stuff. And then the government just banned it. But now all of a sudden they're starting to research it again. So did it just not work for the last 40 years? Or had they not figured out how to make money off it for the last 40 years? But now they are.
Yeah.
So there's huge money in, I know, psychedelics anyway at the moment.
I think
Obviously,
psychedelics are just slightly behind cannabis in terms of that wave, but that's the next
phase.
The next big research area, investment area. I can see it because a lot of the contacts I've made through the business, and they're very interested in that space, and I can see a lot of investment going there now as well. So that is the next big thing. In terms of the endocannabinoid system, so it's a system we all have in our bodies. We wouldn't have learned about it at school, and it wouldn't be in your school books, kind of because it wasn't really researched. So the best way to describe it, so if you think about your body as an orchestra, right? And you've all these systems in your body, and they're like pieces of the orchestra. So you have like your nervous system, your digestive system, your endocrine system, all these systems, and they're pieces of the orchestra. The endocannabinoid system is like the conductor of the orchestra. So its job is to keep everything in tune, in flow, working as it should be, or in balance, really. So the sacred state for the human to be healthy is this state of balance or equilibrium called homeostasis. So it's once we're in that state, all our systems can work as they should. Our body can heal properly. It can fight its inflammation. It can restore, and like you can feel healthy and well. So we're trying to achieve that balance or homeostasis. And the endocannabinoid system as the conductor, it has a key role in this, and its job really is to create this balance in the body so everything can work as it should. And if your endocannabinoid system isn't working or functioning as it should or gets out of whack, then it can cause chaos in the other systems that can then cause inflammation, pain, digestive issues, sleep issues. And I suppose when we're stressed, our endocannabinoid system gets depleted and doesn't work as it should. So you have to supplement it. And that's where CBD comes in. So the endocannabinoid system, and if it gets a little too sciencey,
I love it, man.
Okay. So the endocannabinoid system is made up of neurotransmitters, so they just kind of float around your body, and then it's also made up of receptors, which are found in all your main organs, your brain, and all the systems I spoke of there. So these little neurotransmitters float around and attach to the receptors, and then they cause biological or chemical reactions from that help your body to find balance and work as it should. But when we're stressed and stuff, these neurotransmitters can become depleted. So we need to supplement them with external cannabinoids, and that's what CBD is. So this just shows how closely related to plants we are. We have these molecules floating around in our body, just that we naturally produce. They're exactly the same, nearly like from a scientific perspective and a molecule structure as CBD. So like the plants in us have these same molecules. So yeah, the CBD really, if you're thinking again about the analogy of the conductor, the CBD is like the coffee the conductor needs, or everything the conductor needs to work as it should.
Yeah.
And if the conductor's feeling off, it needs that cup of coffee or whatever. And it needs to supplement the system when it's down. And I think that's science bit. And I know it is, you have to be really want to learn about that. Like most people, I know when I take vitamins, if you ask me, how do vitamins actually work? Like, I'd be stumped,
Yeah.
I know they're good for me. And most people, like, we do research with our customers. They're like, do you know how it works? And they're like, no, but I don't really care. I don't care.
Yeah.
I know it works. I don't care how. But kind of going back to like when you hear people like CBD helps with sleep, CBD helps with anxiety, it helps with pain. And then people are like, how does it help all these things? But it's all down to the endocannabinoid system. If we can get a healthy endocannabinoid system, then we can fight inflammation, which will help with your pain, which actually helps with everything, really.
Yeah.
Like everything's interlinked. There's also, interestingly, one of those neurotransmitters that I spoke about that's in the endocannabinoid system. There's two major ones. One of them, anandamide is the name of it. Anandamide actually, its job is to create like happy feelings in the body. So anandamide actually comes from the Sanskrit word for joy and bliss. And if your anandamide is degraded in your body, then it's very hard to feel good and create those good endorphins. So CBD, one of its main jobs is to stop the degradation of the anandamide, to stop it being broken down. So that's one of the key roles. That's why a lot of people will take it for, more stress, anxiety stuff. So that's another kind of interesting effect that the CBD has. It stops that being broken down. But yeah, kind of what I was trying to like summarize is, it's if we can get that healthy endocannabinoid system, that's why it can help all these different things.
Yeah. That's why it fascinated me. And you said something really important there. We didn't learn about this in school, right? And myself and you, what age do you mind me asking? I'll cut this
30.
You're 30, right? I'm 33. So we went to school roughly around the same time.
Yeah.
This is not, again, I'm very careful about how I say this because I have a huge amount of respect for doctors, nurses, the medical system, all that kind of stuff. But if we didn't learn it in school, that means when our doctors went to school, they didn't learn it either. So it's not in the curriculum for anybody. We're only learning about this now. So traditionally, it takes a long time for industry or systems to catch up with new research and to implement it and to allow it to get through all the red tape and the regulations and stuff like that. So this is not something that will be recommended or spoken about in the vast majority of cases when you're talking to a healthcare professional, and it's not in their remit and they're not told to, and it's not their fault. But if this is a conductor that can link all the different systems in our bodies, and it's insane to think about this because how important it is to have a link between all of these different systems. We think about our nervous system and that controls our muscles, but we don't think about another system there that connects the nervous system with the lymphatic system, with your organs, with your connective tissue, with your brain, with how you're feeling, with it. It's absolutely outrageous. This is if you can get down to this root cause, this root issue, all the downstream issues that you're having that we're treating as symptoms could start to resolve and do start to resolve. We see this over and over again in the research now with the endocannabinoid system. So it's fascinating from that perspective. And this is why I'm so passionate about speaking to people like you on microphone, and this is why I was laughing when we were going into the science. It's like, if we can learn more about this ourselves and empower ourselves and understand, we can start to do more for ourselves and stop relying on the doctor to fix us. So it's very, very powerful to have this information, number one. And then number two, if more and more of us do this, it becomes mainstream, and then we all know about it and we can all discuss it more, and there's more, as we have seen now, there's more money and more research, and then it does become mainstream. So very, very powerful and important. And you said something there about inflammation. On almost every single conversation I have in medical context, inflammation comes up, right down to the very latest podcast that I actually just released yesterday. Now, this is going out next Tuesday, so it'll be a few days ago I released this with Owen Lacey on the immune system. Inflammation. It's all about inflammation. If you have inflammation in your system, and again, we boiled it down to sugar eventually, but poor lifestyle, poor diet, poor habits, poor sleep, high stress, etc., causing chronic inflammation in your system. Is it the second type of receptor is the Cb2 receptor?
Yeah.
I don't want to get bogged down in the science, but one of these receptors that's very effective at in the endocannabinoid system specifically helps control inflammation. So if we're not thinking about that and we're just trying to target inflammation, that's a problem. If we can understand how powerful that receptor or CBD could potentially do for us, because inflammation can cause thousands of issues in your body. A lot of those, I'm not going to say will be fixed, but there's help in resolving a lot of those different things alongside changing your lifestyle and improving your diet and getting better sleep and all the other things. But understanding this means now we're not going to specifically try and treat each individual symptom. Like I have sore hands. I know a lot of people with sore extremities who've changed their lifestyles, didn't take any medications. Now, I'm not recommending this, but didn't take any medications, and all of their pain went away. And they didn't do anything. No physio or stretching or anti-inflammatories or anything like that. They changed their lifestyles, modified their diets, had less stress, and their pain went away. And I'm like, now we're seeing actual results that backs up everything that you've just said there about these other systems that you can kind of target. And they weren't taking CBD, by the way, but it's another tool that you could use.
Well, I think it's, it must be said, CBD is a food supplement. We would always say that it has to start with the diet.
Yeah.
It's just one of your tools, and it always starts with the diet. And a lot of those issues that you say around people with sore extremities and stuff like that, again, if you boil that down, that's inflammation, and it's the body attacking certain tissues because it's not the foods that you're consuming. Either they're highly processed and not healthy, or sometimes people are intolerant to healthy foods that you would say, but their body doesn't see them as healthy foods. Again, it sees them as pathogens or invaders. So then it goes to attack certain parts of the body and inflame those parts of the body. I even had it myself recently with my fingers were just getting inflammation around the knuckles, and then I noticed I was eating a little bit more dairy again. It kind of crept back into my diet, and it was just starting to attack my fingers. And then straight away I cut that out again, and they went back as I was getting these pains. I'm not 85, I'm only 30. Interesting enough as well, with the endocannabinoid system, there's more research coming out now that exercise actually helps regenerate and keep your cannabinoid level high.
Here we go with the exercise again.
Yeah, with the exercise, and then they've done a lot of research on it recently, and then the biomarkers for inflammation go right down, and they've proven that it helps with pain and a couple of other issues. That exercise actually has this similar effect to even CBD. So there's a lot more factors that can affect this system. CBD being it's just a supplement, really, and it has to be we have people getting onto us and they're hoping that the CBD, for some people, will be kind of a silver bullet if they've had chronic insomnia.
Yeah.
It'll with insomnia or sleep issues, it's nearly like breaking the cycle. And what CBD can do, it can have quite a acute, quick effect on them. Not for everyone, but for some people. And then it can get their cycle again, and then they get confidence in their sleeping again. And then, because that's a lot of it with sleeping, is just your mind wandering, and then you're like, okay, I can never fall asleep. It's always 2:00 before I'll actually fall asleep. And it's
like a self-fulfilling prophecy. Then.
Exactly. So what CBD do can nearly, change that cycle up for you and get you back in in a good cycle. I think, as I was saying, the research is only starting, and I think we'll see all of these other things that can have an effect on the endocannabinoid system. But I think for people, it's just to actually be aware of it and the powerful and therapeutic effects it can have on the rest of your systems.
Yeah, I'm going to try a clever little segue here into a question I have for you. You mentioned exercise there. Exercise is a really interesting one as well, because it's about dosage and specificity and how appropriate that exercise is for you. Because if people hear exercise can help regenerate the endocannabinoid system, it doesn't mean going out and running 50 miles or ultra events or things that take an extreme toll on your body, because exercise is a stressor as well. So exercise in the right context for you could be different than for me, and I'm able for hopefully more than a 90-year-old woman is, who's able for less than a 20-year-old is. So it is about being very specific, and people hate hearing that. I actually love it, because it means you can get really individual with it. But we would like a silver bullet, go do 10 squats and 100 miles and whatever, and that's your, but it does depend for everybody. And on the topic is my clever segue of effective dosages. With CBD, one of the issues that I have always come up against with CBD, and I think a lot of people do, is dose. And a lot of the research that I've seen, now again, I didn't dive deep into the research, but I looked at a few studies, and some of the studies are done on super, super high dosages. But then I kind of looked at what the results they were looking for, and it was in extreme cases of schizophrenia and trying to combat addiction. And so I was like, that kind of made sense to me then, because when I looked at some of the dosages and some of the products that maybe I would have taken 5 or 6 years ago, it was negligible. So it was on the other end of the scale. So would you mind having a little kind of chat with me about dosages? What kind of dosage should people be looking for in a product that has CBD in it? And I know it completely depends on the product and the result. And I couldn't see any congruency between this is the recommended dose of CBD. It really depended on what the person was hoping to achieve from using CBD. And it ranged from, as I said, 1 milligram per day to, I think the highest I saw was 7.5 grams, so 7,500 milligrams. Okay. Now, what I did see when they did that was...
That'd be expensive.
That'd be very expensive, yeah. I saw actually a link between almost GI issues, tummy issues and diarrhea and stuff when they're using that level of CBD. So that's 1 milligram to 7,500 milligrams was the range that was being quoted in all these different studies, but there was no real kind of this is the ideal. And then what I took from that was there is no ideal, it kind of depends. Would it be fair enough in saying that?
That's exactly the answer. Okay. And unfortunately, it can seem maybe like a wishy-washy answer when customers ask, but we all have different biological makeups. We're all different sizes. We metabolize things differently and absorb them differently. Some products have different bioavailabilities than other. That means more CBD gets into the bloodstream with some products than others. So there isn't one size fits all dosage, unfortunately. People with more chronic issues will naturally need a higher dosage. So we have 2 strength products. With our lower strength, you'll get 20 milligrams of CBD per day if you take it at the recommended dose that we say. You can take it higher or lower. With our higher strength product, you'll get 40 milligrams per day. 40 milligrams is a good, strong dose of CBD. It's not like those studies that you say. They seem to go extreme on the dosages, but I suppose it's sold as a food supplement and kind of as a wellness product. I think when they're doing those tests, they're doing them on these kind of extreme outlier cases, but it's not like your day-to-day customer that would have.
And I think just an important thing to clarify about the landscape of medicine is if you are claiming there's a therapeutic effect to something that you're putting in somebody's body, it has to be classed as a pharmaceutical or...
Which this isn't.
Which it's not. It's a food supplement.
It's a food supplement. That's an important clarification. Yeah. So there's no... We can't make any health claims around it. Even if someone asks, we can point them to our independently verified reviews, and people can look there and get a sense of how it's helping people. But yeah, we have to be careful about that because it's not a medicine.
But sorry, just to give you a bit of weight behind what you're saying there as well. Conversely, remember how these things get approved. There's systems behind it. There's people and systems and money and interests behind this. So it doesn't also necessarily mean that it won't help you with issues. You can't make those claims.
You can't make the claims, but I think the evidence is there that it helps people. They're coming back every month. That's our biggest marker in the business, and our kind of is like, what's our repeat customer rate? Because that's like that. Then we know it's working for customers, and thankfully it's very high. And like that's the one we're always keeping an eye on. Are people coming back every month?
Yeah.
And we do realize it is an expensive product, and something we touched on earlier, you know, around everyone can make a decision about the now, you know.
Yeah.
But wellness as an industry it's a privileged industry, and like to eat well, to eat organic, it costs. You know, to buy our CBD products, it's expensive. To do a lot of the things that we consider in that wellness space, they are a bit of a privilege. So we do realize that. But yeah, it's all about we can't make the medical claims, but like the evidence is just staring us there in the face. And on the dosage, so the guidelines by I think it's the European Safety, Food Safety, would say not to take any more than 70 milligrams per day.
Okay.
Of CBD. So our two products, one is 20 milligrams, one is 40. As I said, the chronic people with chronic issues will normally go for that higher strength and take around 40. Some people will even take a little bit more than the recommended dose, all the way up to 70 milligrams. People who are new to CBD with, I'd say, more milder issues will start with the lower strength. And you'll see some products out there, they'll use percentages, like they'll be like a 2% oil or 5% oil. That is high. It's highly confusing. I wish everyone just did it the same. So we've done it milligrams by milligrams for a specific reason. First of all, every other food supplement is done that way. But second of all, you can then judge, okay, I take 20 milligrams per day. It's kind of working for me. It's not really. I need to up it to 30 or 40. And then like 40 is really working for me. That's kind of my sweet spot. Only by doing it in the milligrams can you judge then, what strength works for you. And
I've noticed another, I don't know, is it a party trick they try on that? Is they don't give you the actual dose per milliliter. So they might say, yeah, there's 1,000 milligrams in this product, but it could be a liter.
Yes.
So the dose is actually negligible. It's nothing. But it's like the whey protein thing. We have whey burgers, but it could be 1 gram of whey protein in the burger. So it's not exactly, you're not exactly getting the benefits of the protein from that supplement, but it's in it, so they can say it's in it.
Yeah. So when I talk about our say 40 milligrams per day, so when we recommend you take 1 mil of our oil per day.
You've clarified.
And in that 1 mil of oil is 40 milligrams.
Oh,
yeah.
Perfect. Okay.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. The just bring me back for a second to the hemp plant as well, because you mentioned a couple of things on Pat's podcast I found very interesting about how robust that plant is and all of the other things that it's used for. Yeah. As well as obviously not just for getting CBD out of. Tell me about hemp a little bit.
Yeah, CBD is only the kind of new thing they're using hemp for. Like hemp was used for hundreds of years for multiple kind of industrial uses, clothing, bedding. You can even make plastics out of it. Like it's this really robust. The stalk of the hemp plant is really robust, and as I said, it was used for hundreds of years, and then in the early 1900s, because hemp is the cousin of marijuana and it's in the same family, when all marijuana was kind of banned, hemp unfortunately came under the same umbrella and was also banned. So hemp kind of disappeared off the face of the earth for like 70 or 80 years, or maybe a little longer, and now it's having its kind of renaissance. They say, I think they say there's like 5,000 different uses for the plant. So it's this extraordinary plant that we are not capitalizing on whatsoever. So first of all, it's one of our real powerful weapon that we have kind of in our armory for sustainability and for climate change that we just haven't grasped onto yet. So hemp, when it's grown in the field, it sequesters I think 4 or 5 times more carbon than a tree would. But a tree can take like 20, 30 years to grow. You can grow from seeding to harvesting hemp, you can grow it in 3 months.
Wow.
And not in our climate now, but in warmer climates, you could have 3 or 4 harvests a year. So the amount of carbon you can sequester from the atmosphere by growing hemp. So like you have those benefits straight away. And then you have, when you harvest the hemp, all the reasons it can be used for making bioplastics and clothing, a sustainable plant product that can be used to make all these other products, rather than petroleum being used for plastics. You can use the cellulose from the hemp plant to make plastics. Like the uses, but in Ireland anyway, and everywhere is catching up, but like we're just way behind here. So it's all well and good farmers growing some hemp, like, because a lot of people are interested in growing it, but it's when you harvest it, how do you process it? How do you turn it into these things? That's where you need a lot of money. That's where the investment is just completely lacking. And farmers just don't have those facilities or the money. So that's where the push needs to come from the government. I'd love if it was even invested in like a centralized facility that could process, if all the farmers could grow a certain amount, they get their fee per acre of the crop. And then it goes to this centralized facility where they dry it, because it has to be dried, processed for the different uses that I spoke about, and then sold on. Only until that investment is there, like the farmers are kind of, they're just going to lose out on money on their crop, apart from a couple of them that are a bit further along. So like Ireland has this, it has this crop here that's great for the land as a regenerative crop. It's very easy to grow. As you said, it's robust. It can grow in most conditions. It's great for the environment, and then it has all these uses. So if we could just get the investment there and then create the markets for it, like, because the markets are there, especially in China, they're looking for it for the clothing. I know there's a company in Ireland using it for hemp for clothing as well. But it needs that investment. So we're a long way behind how the industry is even set up here. There's a country the size of ours, and there's 2 separate hemp groups, like hemp lobbying groups, cooperatives. So like, I think that says a lot. We need to get everyone on the one page. Need to get the right people fighting for it. But like, I'm hesitant to say too much either. But like, I know we've been busy getting the business going. Being perfectly honest, like, have I done enough to progress the hemp industry here? Probably not. Like, so I'm hesitant to, talk about people in the industry until you do it yourself. So it's something that it's just, yourself, you have a lot going on. It's hard to do it, but I'm hopefully, as we can grow a bit more, then I can carve away a bit more time for that, because just to grow the industry as a whole.
Well, there's a few things there. First, I'm laughing because this is a substance that potentially steps in the toes of big oil. If you're able to
and big pharma.
And big pharma. So like, people always ask these questions. It's funny sometimes to me. It's like, why isn't there more a push behind this? Well,
I think your answer is there. And like, people give out, say you're getting into these conspiracy theories. You don't want to get into them.
No.
The facts are like, big pharma are having a... Firstly, on one side of things, they're starting to now invest in medical cannabis companies, so they're covering themselves. But like, they realize that this is can be potentially a push away from certain medicines, and that's not what they want. And like, the reality is, they have closer links with our medicine boards and stuff than the hemp industry or the cannabis industry. It's a lot stronger voices. There's a lot more money behind it, and it's definitely stalling things happening, because, as I've hopefully outlined there, like, it's obvious, isn't it? Why, what the beneficial effects it can have on the climate and the products we can make out of it. It's like, it's a no-brainer. So why is it not happening?
Yeah.
I think your answer is there. Like,
yeah, and again, it's something, and I don't like getting bogged down in, and I don't even like using the word conspiracy theory, but I think it's really, really important for us to have these kind of discussions, if everyone have these kind of discussions, because anywhere there is financial incentive, the rules change. It's not conspiracy. It's how the world works. It's how business works. It's how everything works. If there is a financial incentive for something, the rules change. It's not about ethics and morals and what's good for the country. It's about how much money can we make and what's the bottom line. And it doesn't mean there's evil mind control madness at play here. Maybe there is, I don't know. But that's not what I'm saying. It's not what you're saying here either. It just means that if we, as the people, as consumers, as business owners, as the people who make up communities, can understand that that's how the incentive model works, we can act differently. Instead of getting, like, I'm never going out placarding against big bad pharma, because I understand how that system works, and that's not how to live my life better, or I might have my community live a better life. It's for you, it's creating better products and educating people. For me, it's trying to bring community together and educate people, educate myself. And once I know, I don't go hide under my stairs with my tinfoil hat on and then try and burn down big bad pharma. It's not about that. It's just about empowering myself to live a better, healthier, more fulfilled life and have other people do the same thing. And if you can create something that's valuable for your community and educate them, more people will be like that. And then we don't need to get angry at anybody because we have a little bit more control, and maybe then we can come together and collectively fund hemp growth and have more great products and stuff like that. So but I feel it's important to say that because some people listen to what you and I have just said there and go, oh, fuck.
I know, you can roll the eyes. Yeah.
It's not what it's about at all.
No, it's not. I think our vote is important as well. And it's only, you know, like I'm not very political or, you know, I vote every time there's an election, but do I really go into depth on it? Probably not. I'm just thinking now with where we're at with the climate and like it's staring us in the face and like we need to take a radical crisis approach like we've done with COVID, that I think really the next time the election comes around, like everyone, you know, you're fighting for us, but like, you know, our kids and our grandkids and whatever, like we really need to think hard anymore about our vote. And I don't know, I don't have a party like who has the solutions, but I'm definitely going to keep my ear to the ground a bit more on who's got the ideas, who's actually going to make a push, because things aren't happening quick enough. And I think that is one of our powerful weapons as a people. With all the other things we can do on a personal level, don't get away from it. Like that's where stuff happens at those tables. So yeah, we're going down
the rabbit hole here.
We're definitely gone down the rabbit hole.
Yeah, and just a final point on that, you can vote with your feet as well.
Yes.
Where you shop. And again, this is a privileged conversation as well, which I'm fully aware of because you pointed out it's more expensive to do these things. But everyone has, if you really believe in this, if you actually really believe in this and you want to support local and you're concerned about climate change, vote with your feet. You spend your money where you think it's going to be, and that's very important. But to not get completely sidetracked here, I appreciate no, not at all. I brought you there, and I appreciate you following me down the hole. But we talked about hemp there, and the reason I brought you back from CBD to hemp is because I want to ask you a question about bioavailability and the quality of these products and things like full spectrum CBD. How you get the CBD out of the plant is important, as it is a lot of different foods and supplements. Is the extraction process and whether it goes through superheating processes and stuff like that is very, very important in terms of how your body reacts to it and consumes it. And we know now that a lot of like really high heated processed oils and stuff like that have an inflammatory reaction in our gut and in our system. So how do you get the figs and the fig rolls? How do you get the CBD out of the plant, and what are the different processes that are there? You mentioned they're quite expensive, but how does it work?
Yeah, we use a cold press extraction technique. So yeah, there's little to no heat involved at all. I don't want to cut across it here, but just to explain to people why that's important is when heat is involved in some of these processes, it can change the chemical makeup of these compounds, and they can be very, very... That's exactly right. Yeah, it changes the chemical makeup of it. There's two other extraction methods that are used. CO2 is used in an extraction method. To be honest, that is a very clean extraction method and keeps the compounds intact. It's just not legal here yet, but that would be the main extraction method they'd use in the States, for example, for medical cannabis to extract THC and CBD. So, like, I'm definitely pro the CO2 extraction. It's just the way the cards are dealt here. That's the cold press is the extraction method we have to go use. You can also use ethanol or alcohol extraction. I would be less enamored by that because you can get traces of it in the products, and it can affect it. So they're the three main methods, and the cold press it's a beautiful extraction method, great natural extracts, no heat as you say, and just gives that. So when you talk about full spectrum, that means we just extract all the compounds out of the plant in their most natural form. We don't tamper with them in any way. You can also have broad spectrum extracts where it can. Because I said in hemp, the THC levels are so low anyway, but in some products, people even remove the THC fully, even that tiny traces. So they put it through another method of distillation for that. And then some people just isolate the CBD compound itself and just sell it with just CBD, so it doesn't have all the other compounds. But it's not a medical proof, but there's a lot of great research out there about if you keep all the plant in its most natural form, all those compounds work synergistically together and have a much greater beneficial impact than just if you use just CBD. And it makes sense. It's just keeping it in its most natural form. And there's loads of there's CBG, CBE, there's loads of other compounds in there as well. And the research is starting to take place in them as well, and you'll see that they have a lot of therapeutic properties in their own right. So if we're trying to keep it as natural as possible.
Yeah, it reminds me of the orange versus orange juice. Your body is not used to consider people. There's a really common question people ask now, especially in like fitness and weight loss circles, about fruit is bad for you because there's sugar in it, there's fructose in it. Where that might not necessarily be great for you is if you have a big glass of orange juice where you don't have all of the fibers and all the different compounds that are in an orange. In the distilled, concentrated orange juice, you get this massive influx of sugar, of fructose, and your body's like, whoa, we don't even know what this is because this didn't exist. This is not how we consume. But if you eat an orange, that is not bad for you. That's very good for you with vitamins and minerals and the fructose in its natural form along with the fiber, and your body knows how to break that down and process it as a whole, as opposed to a glass of orange juice. And it kind of reminds me of what you're saying there, like just extracting the one super condensed version of CBD as opposed to in its natural form. This is how we're supposed to consume this.
I think we're doing that with a lot of things, like
loads.
Turmeric and curcumin.
Yeah.
They're isolating curcumin because
it's sexy.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's cheaper to do. But again, by that functional medicine doctor I went to, she would have highly recommended that you take turmeric rather than just the isolated curcumin because of all those other components in it that work together. Like that's the natural, that's what's grown. I think is it grown in the ground, turmeric? But anyway, that's it in its most natural form. So the more we can eat unprocessed, plant-based maybe, and in its most natural form, I think the better really, because it's as nature intended.
Yeah. And it's like I've been banging on about whey protein all day today. Eat an egg or a chicken breast or some other form of protein-rich food if it's plant-based or whatever, as opposed to relying on a whey because whey protein is again a supplement that's designed just to help if you're really not getting there with natural foods. But natural foods are only going to get all the benefits of all the other elements that are involved in micronutrients in the food. Exactly. So and then my last scientific question on CBD specifically is absorption. I think that I read somewhere about lipid-based absorption is better if it's how it's delivered into your system. So in an oil as opposed to sublingual or anything else. What are the delivery methods for
delivery
CBD?
methods? So the main method is an oil-based product. So we use organic Mct Coconut Oil as the base for the product. There's hemp seed oil and organic Mct oil in there. So you take the product, you take the oil under your tongue. The reason you do that is you can absorb the CBD directly into your bloodstream. You have these little mucous membranes under your tongue, so you can get it directly into the bloodstream there. So you leave it under your tongue for like 45 seconds to a minute, get as much absorbed there as possible before you swallow, and then you'll have some down your normal system. MCT oil is used to increase the bioavailability and the absorption. So when you take the CBD into your body, it'll obviously go into your stomach, some of the acids there, then it gets metabolized by your liver. So you're losing some all the time. And what you want is to get as much of that CBD into the bloodstream. So what MCT Coconut Oil, it actually allows you to absorb some of it through the lining of your stomach before it even gets to your liver. So again, you're getting more in there. So they say that MCT coconut oil, if that's used as a base of your products or a carrier oil, you'll get 3 times more CBD into your bloodstream. So that's one method of taking it. There's also water-soluble CBD out there where like you can mix it in with a glass of water. You can get sachets. That's a very bioavailable method as well, and it's a very good method. Again, we're a little bit constrained here in terms of what we can use from an extraction, distillation to get it into that format, but that's definitely a very interesting way of taking it. There's transdermal patches that I've heard of that you can get it into your skin in a certain point. We have a balm product as well that's rubbed onto the skin. The amount of CBD getting into the bloodstream is negligible in that method, but you have the endocannabinoid system is in your skin as well. So you have receptors in your skin. So say if you have a really sore thumb, for example, you can get the CBD into the receptors there in the skin. It's not going into your bloodstream per se, but it's having a more targeted effect on that particular area. I think they're the main methods. Some people smoke CBD as well. It's probably the way of getting the most instant kick of it, but most people they don't want to smoke, they don't like to smoke or whatever, so they won't go for that method.
I am so happy you explained that last bit about the skin there, because I was going to have to call you on it, because a lot of people claim with topical products massive amounts of product entering the bloodstream, and your skin is one of the most effective barriers in the world, if not the most effective barrier in the world. But the fact that there's endocannabinoid receptors in the skin, and that's what you're targeting, that gives me a lot of confidence in how this will work.
Like with athletes, obviously tested athletes, we normally advise that
of course,
there's always the chance.
You never know.
And they don't want to put their careers on the line. Plus, some of the testing facilities out there, distinguishing between, they're getting better, but distinguishing between THC and CBD, because they're such close, in nature, even though they have such dramatic different effects, you never know what could pick up. But definitely for athletes, like any normal athlete can use the oils or the balm, but I think the balm would actually be fine with athletes, because there's not the CBD isn't getting into the bloodstream, or it's very negligible if any that gets in. So it's just topical, as you say, but it can have a very powerful effect, like at the skin level or at the muscle level. Disclaimer: no liability here. No athletes to use Ethos CBD. We need to put in a disclaimer at the end of this. I feel, for everything.
And just because you mentioned it there, the big bad brother that everybody talks about of CBD, THC.
Yeah,
it's not just a crazy psychoactive substance that should be kind of made evil. There's serious benefits to THC as well, potentially. Now, it's not in your products.
No, it's not in our products, but there is serious benefits. Like there's medical products now with THC that are approved by the FDA and in Europe, and they're being used. Ireland started its medical cannabis program in 2019, so I drafted the legislation around it. So it was a big step at the time. So for the first time, patients in Ireland were going to be able to get medical cannabis products through prescription. So they're products with THC in them. They're normally a blend of CBD and THC. It could be 1-for-1 ratio, or there's lots of different ratios, and you use the different ratios for different things you're trying to treat. So that bill was brought in 2019. Then I suppose COVID happened then, everything went quiet, but it was actually July of this year, of 2021, when we approved our first, I think it was 3 products that now someone should be able to go and get a prescription for. Now, the whole program, I don't think it's kind of been set up to fail again. And the amount of prescriptions that have been given out, I'd say you could count them on one hand. So it's not really working as it should be. And again, this isn't attacking the medical system. They had the right people advising it from a medical standpoint here in Ireland, but they never brought in someone to advise it from a medical cannabis standpoint, who's done the research there, who's worked in the States or in the markets that are ahead of us. It was just medical people, traditional medical people in Ireland, and their views are very important, but they needed to bring in someone as well from the medical cannabis industry who's trained in that, which was never done. So there was three specific conditions when you're allowed to get a prescription for, I think, multiple sclerosis, chemotherapy if you have a lot of nausea and other tablets haven't worked, and I forget the last one. The big omission was chronic pain, and that was what bothered a lot of people, because we have such a chronic pain issue in Ireland. I think there's 700,000 people in Ireland that have chronic pain.
700,000?
Yes.
That's a significant percentage of the population.
Yes. And a good percentage of them have like really debilitating chronic pain. So chronic pain, I think, is defined as pain you have for, I could be wrong, but I think it's 30 days or more, maybe slightly less. But then out of that, I couldn't believe the number. And then out of that 700,000, a lot of that's debilitating, like day to day, I can't go to work, I can't do this. And these people, they need medical cannabis products. They're actually getting them anyway. They're just going to have to either get them off the black market, or some families are having to go to Holland to get them and spend thousands. So like they need these products to live their lives. And like these products, as you say, they're not going to make them high or anything. They're done at the right dosages that can affect their pain and stuff and make it tolerable. Like, so it does bother me that we have these people that are struggling day to day, and there's a solution there for them. They've tried, like these people have tried all the heavy meds, they've tried the steroids, they've tried everything because they want to get better.
Yeah.
But they haven't worked and they're suffering. And we have this solution, and in all these other countries we're seeing it happen, but unfortunately for these people, they're going to be the last, or not, they won't be the last, but they'll be, it's delaying being able to help these people. Yeah. So, THC certainly isn't the enemy, and it has a lot of use in these medical products.
Yeah, look, one of the things you brought there, we'll touch on now because we're going to dive into functional medicine in a little bit. In terms of the a lot of the time when you're taking medications, side effects of medications, and a lot of medications that I read about only before you came in here can significantly impair the endocannabinoid system. So you're taking a medication to deal with a symptom that is potentially being caused by a disruption in your endocannabinoid system, and it's interfering with that same system. So it's not no surprise to me why those traditional medications aren't necessarily helping in certain cases. Now, they're fantastic for some things, but for a lot of things, they're not the right approach, and they could actually be making it worse. And then the second thing you mentioned then, this is a controversial thing to say, and it's not a discussion for today, but I'll make the point because you said it. There's a constant, a lot of people saying, well, it won't make them high. But if somebody is in pain and they want to make a decision about their own health, and there's psychoactive properties to the substances and they're aware of them and understand them, there's an argument to be made there to allow that person to make a decision for their own health, even if there will be a psychoactive experience. We're all big boys and girls. We're creating, I feel, and again, we won't go here, right? I'm just going to say, but we won't go too deep. We're creating a real nanny state, lack of responsibility approach, and I believe it's by design, but it disempowers people because you can't make that decision. I'm in chronic pain every single day. I know it's eventually going to be legalized. At the moment it's not. I'm going to die before it does. I'm in pain. I'm going to get this stuff anyway, but my government won't, or my doctor won't allow me to. Not my doctor. The legislation won't allow me to make a decision about my own health because I'm not allowed to get high. But I can buy a bottle of whiskey and get out of my mind drunk and get into a car and kill someone.
Yeah, like if you came down from space, like in the morning, you'd just be like,
I love that.
This is what's going on. Like it is bonkers. Like there's serious discrepancies in what's going on. And you're right, like it should come down to their personal decision, how we can let these people sit in their homes, and not get them the treatment. And like, I have no doubt, like we look back in 10 years' time and people will be using these medical products, and obviously
CBD sponsored by Pfizer.
Yeah, exactly. That's it. But I suppose you have to look at the other side of the argument as well, and the medical professions, and they have worries probably about kids, smoking more cannabis. But like, I think a lot of the proof there now is that doesn't happen. Like use doesn't go up.
Haven't they shown?
Yeah, they've shown that in Canada and stuff. And
it actually goes, dependency goes down.
Dependency goes down, and the use doesn't go up. It doesn't go up amongst teenagers. So maybe we're waiting for more of that data, and that's maybe okay. I can understand that argument as well, to be balanced. So maybe that's kind of where their head's at, but unfortunately there will be people that will suffer in the meantime. And that chronic pain, that omission of that off the list, like I think that's been the big one that's hurt people in the industry, because they'd be one of the biggest users of it, and it's worked very well in Germany.
Yeah. Just as a due diligence, are there side effects to too much CBD or THC, I suppose?
THC there is, but CBD there's not.
No side effects.
Yeah, so that's amazing. No side effects. So, but THC there certainly is.
Yeah.
But like if you're taking it from a medical perspective, you'd be taking a lot more controlled doses. Certain milligrams. Whereas if you're going buying it off the street, the THC percentage could be like 20% and up. Like that's very strong, and the black market, they're trying to make it stronger and stronger to get people more addicted in it. Yeah, what are they doing to it? So we want to take it out of their hands. It just makes perfect sense that like you go in and buy your coffee, you should be able to go in.
Which is a psychoactive, mind-altering substance.
Exactly.
Caffeine.
Everything is kind of is psychoactive in a
right
way.
dose.
In a way, like it's having some effect. But you should be able, again, back to like your personal responsibility and your choice. Like you should be able to go in a controlled environment. You know, it's organic. You know exactly the traceability on it. You know what you want to get from it. You know the strength. And you should be able to make that choice, just like you can make the choice to go out and buy a bottle of whiskey.
Yeah.
And like, like if I was chatting to you now after a bottle of whiskey or after smoking, so you'd be a lot nicer person after
a bottle of whiskey.
After smoking.
Smoking. Okay. Yeah.
The majority of people would. Like
Yeah.
if you go around the city on a Saturday night at 2:00, like, are they cool people?
Yeah.
Like I'm one of those people as well, you know, when I'm out, but like it's not a cool scene really, is it? Like seeing people the way they're, so yeah, it's just why one and not the other, but it'll just take time. There's a lot of taboo around it and we just need to let it develop.
Michael Pollan actually does great work on this, and I didn't realize, I was familiar with some of his work on obviously mushrooms and psychoactives and stuff like that, but does he write a book on THC, the botany of desire?
Okay.
Yeah, so like it's there's a lot of people discussing some really interesting stuff out there. I think it's just about absorbing it more and getting more, like you're doing now, get more education out there. So that was a beautiful little kind of handbook on CBD and THC there.
That made sense.
Yeah, absolutely, it was brilliant. But because part of your journey was functional medicine based, and you're quite well versed in functional medicine, and you're quite passionate about it now as well. Do you mind if we have a little bit of conversation on?
Absolutely,
on
yeah,
that?
yeah.
And I'm going to read, because I read these to you before we started, I'm going to read these for the listeners as well, these two definitions, because obviously I worked in a functional medicine clinic for a long time, very passionate about it. I'm not a doctor, I'm not an expert, but really, really interested in the concept of functional medicine and empowering people with their health and getting down to the root causes of what's actually going on. I love it. So I'm just going to read, I'm not being rude, I'm just pulling up these two pictures on my phone I took. There's two definitions that I found of functional medicine. The first one is by the Institute of Functional Medicine, and they describe functional medicine as a systems biology-based approach that focuses on identifying and addressing the root cause of disease. Makes sense. Find out what's going wrong.
Yeah.
And then you fix that, and it fixes all the downstream stuff. Fair enough. Wikipedia. And I've seen this for probably 8 or 9 years now. I've always wondered, as this comes to the forefront, is this going to change? And it hasn't changed. And I saw it change once and someone changed it back to what this is. Functional medicine is a form of alternative medicine that encompasses a number of unproven and disproven methods and treatments. Its proponents claim that it focuses on the root causes, and root causes is in quotation marks, of diseases based on the interactions between the environment and the gastrointestinal, endocrine and immune systems to develop, quote unquote, individualized treatment plans, which, I mean, that sounds good to me rather than a blueprint plan. And then this last sentence is what gets me. It has been described as pseudoscience, quackery, and at its essence, a rebranding of complementary and alternative medicine. That's so unhelpful.
It is.
It's so unhelpful. And I made a comment earlier on about the medical system and doctors and nurses, and I have a massive, massive amount of respect for people who can work in that system, because I believe the system is fundamentally flawed. I don't have a better answer. I have better methodologies, but for someone to think that that's what functional medicine is, quackery and pseudoscience, unfortunately, like we alluded to earlier on, when there's a trend, a lot of snake oil merchants get on board. So there is some absolute horseshit out there, unfortunately. But it doesn't change the message behind, the principles behind that first definition I read out there. Let's figure out what the root cause for all these symptoms are. We live in a massively symptomatic world nowadays. I mean, you are literally developing a product that can help people in so many different ways, but what you're trying to do is access this conductor, this root, this central system that's contributing to inflammation and low immunity and tiredness and stress and anxiety. And I think, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, most people probably quote to you, why are you taking CBD? I can't sleep, or I'm anxious, or I'm restless, or I'm just high. And CBD, because that's how I hear, in most contexts, that's how I hear about it. But there's a root cause there. And we know the endocannabinoid system is a part of that, and it's probably brought on by lifestyle factors. But what brought you down the road of? I know your health issues did, but how did you find functional medicine? What led you to this doctor? I don't know if you mentioned her name.
Yeah, Basma Sala, Dr. Basma Sala is her name, and she's a family friend. So
very good. Okay.
Yeah, so that's that was the link, and she's been very helpful to us, like with the business as well, and her advice. I go to her a lot with different things. So that was just kind of how I got into it. It wasn't like it was referred by someone who'd used it. And it was just, like when I sat in her office, the whole approach to it, the big thing was there's someone listening to me. That was kind of it. And that's probably when you go to see someone about your mental health. People like to be listened to. And that was the first time I think I was fully listened to for my symptoms. And I was like, gosh, she's asking me these really interesting questions about my lifestyle. I felt like she's gone like the full spectrum of what could be affecting my health. And I think, as you said, like the medical professionals we have are doing such a good job. I think in a lot of ways it's the system is failing them. And I know we kind of spoke about this before. If you're a GP, like to make ends meet, you have to see a certain amount of people, and that's the business. And you don't have the luxury of spending an hour and a half with every patient. Otherwise, you wouldn't have a business. So the reality is, you need to do an analysis, look at the symptoms, and treat it with sometimes prescription medicine, sometimes not. And probably a lot of the cases, the prescription medicine, you're having some issue. That is actually the issue, that the symptoms are the issue you have, and the medicine works. That's fine. But the reality is that is not the case in a lot of cases. And I was a perfect example of that. So I can talk firsthand. Whereas with the functional medicine approach, it's finding that root cause. It's going a layer deeper. It's doing the tests, other tests if you need to find the root cause to then treat it. So I think it's a lot more, I think it can be a lot more sustainable way of dealing with health. And it can be more preventative in certain cases, and can put the foundations in place, the way you live your life, your diet, so you don't just end up in that situation again. Like the reality is, okay, like medicine is advancing at such an unbelievable rate. It's the solution for a lot of acute issues, like the surgeries they can do now, how they can treat different conditions. It's phenomenal. But people are getting sicker. Like that's also a reality. So we have all these advances, but people are getting way sicker. Who's benefiting from that? We won't go there again. So something's wrong. Like the system, if people take a step back again, we had that person coming in from space, the system is broken. It's working in so many ways, but it's broken in a lot of others. So the functional medicine approach just made such sense to me once I experienced it myself. And I know what you're saying. The right structures haven't been maybe put around functional medicine. That's why maybe you have some of the bad actors, or like people claim to be functional medicine experts. I don't know. Like the functional medicine doctor I went to, she's also a qualified doctor, and I think a lot of them are, and I think they probably should be. That's where their training should be. But maybe there needs to be, the functional medicine as a practice maybe needs to be recognized a bit more, and maybe it needs to be streamlined to a certain extent, so you don't have people coming in with completely off the wall approaches and therapies and then calling them functional medicine. But the approach just saying such sense, like, let's try to get to the root cause and then we can try fix it. And it's something I've never forgot. And it's something like I'm very passionate about now, because since we started the business, we have people contacting us. Like, unfortunately, we have people contacting with all sorts of terrible issues all the time. And that's one of the tough things to listen to and try help. And like, we're not medical doctors, which we always say. We can advise how certain people have been affected by the products, and then for them to try it. But we are very careful not going into any like medical advice. But a lot of people have come to me since they heard the other podcast that I did with Pat, and have asked for for Basma's details, and just like, so many people can relate. I'm having this issue that's just been going on and on and on. I'm not getting any better. I need to try something different. And then they're coming back with the success stories and feeling better. So, I think it's something we need to try blend into our lives a bit more, and just a bit more of a sustainable method to healthcare. I know, you're passionate about it as well. It's something I'm looking into a lot and talking to a lot of people in the profession. And just because we're getting it a lot through our people contacting us, it's like, how can we raise the profile of it a little bit more? Because like with cannabis, if you look back in 10 years' time and it'll be so mainstream and people will be using it for medicine, I truly believe that will be the same with functional medicine. Because people are going towards more natural methods, and the chronic issues are becoming more and more frequent, and it's not working what we're doing. So the approach has to change. And I think we'll look back and be like, Jesus, how did we do How did we serve everyone the same way? Not everyone should be served the same way. People need more personalized approaches because, we're not all the same, and just what works for you mightn't work for me.
Yeah. Can I get you to clarify something? Because my perspective is identical to yours, by the way. I line up with you on all of that. But I'll play devil's advocate here because there's some pushback or questions people ask when they hear you said where the medicine is advancing at a quicker rate than ever, which it absolutely is. Why do you say we're getting sicker?
Why are we getting sicker?
Yeah, because what people say is, and again, remember, I agree here, but I want maybe you can clarify for people what this looks like. Because what people say is, would you rather live 100 years ago when there was all those diseases and people were dying at 50 and all that kind of stuff? But that's a very reductionist way of looking at it, I think. That's missing the point, to be honest with you. Why do you say that we're sicker now?
I think the major thing is our diet. Yeah. If you look around...
So you're talking kind of chronic disease.
Chronic disease. Yeah. We're becoming resistant to antibiotics as well, which is that is a pandemic in itself waiting to happen.
But as you pointed out, antibiotics are being used
for reasons
that maybe they shouldn't be used.
Yeah. On animals as well, and I think that's spilling over to humans' interactions with animals. I'm not that well versed in that space. Yeah. I've read a bit into it, but a lot of the people who are well versed would say that could be our next big pandemic when we become resistant to antibiotics, because I think they are being used and they were used I'm just even speaking firsthand here. I took 2 or 3 rounds of antibiotics for an issue that I didn't have.
Which I just would like to clarify. I don't know your doctor. I don't know what the situation was. I don't know what the actual condition was. Yeah. But that was probably the guideline recommended treatment for the symptoms that you had.
It made sense. I had a sinus pain. The doctor did nothing wrong. Yeah. I had a sinus pain. I can meter for 5 or 10 minutes. I had a sinus pain. I think probably if 9 other people like me went in with a sinus pain, maybe they probably do have a sinus infection. So the antibiotics works in that case. It didn't work for me. Yeah, I think that's important to point out. I think the doctor did everything right. But if maybe things were set up slightly differently, could I have got a better approach? Again, it's no slight on the doctor. That's that's a question I think we should ask ourselves, is the system right? And I think you'll find that there is actually quite a few flaws in it, and it's no fault of the people who are working in it, but there's other powers. Yeah,
I look at it like it's not a health system, it's a health care system. So the people who work in the system are intended to be there for emergency reasons. They're not there to keep you healthy. They're there when you get sick or break your leg. If I break my leg tomorrow or get very sick, I'm going straight to the doctor, the hospital. That's what it's there for, and I firmly believe in that. I'm not going to get into kind of modern times, what's going on at the moment, but we have this major issue with our healthcare system because people are leaning on it to keep them healthy. And we have all this chronic disease, and we have it most of it related to personal choices that we make. Now, yes, it's been driven by industry and we're being told all this kind of crap, but we eat the food and we live the lifestyles and we consume these substances that aren't good for us in massive quantities. And we do that. We are the end of the chain there. Yeah, there's messaging there, but we do that. So we overload this system that's designed to take care of us when we get really sick. But imagine you could prevent yourself from getting really sick for a long time. Now, you can't stop yourself getting hit by a car or, touch wood, picking up some very rare disease or something like that. But the vast majority, and this is in my experience in the clinic that I worked in, and from all the stats that you can read about Ireland specifically, the vast majority of people who end up in hospital are people with chronic disease or lifestyle-related issues, obesity, liver disease, cancers, all that kind of stuff. Now, it's not to say they're all, but the vast majority. So if we had a health system where we were engaging with practices and products and people, practitioners who understood this stuff, and it was formalized and regulated, and regulation is a different story altogether, but there was a formalized system there that you were referring to, we wouldn't then go to our GP all the time when we were not feeling great, or we'd go when we were really sick, and they'd be able to help us, and they would be able to give us the time because they wouldn't have to see 50 people that day to keep the lights on or pay their insurance. We'd have another system that helps to take care of us and keeps us healthy, and we'd be educated and we'd be living better lives and stuff like that. So, but I think we look at the healthcare system as a system that's supposed to keep us healthy, and it's not. It's supposed to. They're firefighters. They put out fires when fires inevitably happen, which they do. And touch wood, me or you never get really sick, but if we do, we'll go straight to the hospital.
Of course.
But until then, we'll try and live lives that prevent us ever having to go to the hospital. Whereas I feel there's an over-reliance on these people, the doctor you mentioned in particular, who had 5 minutes with you and correctly diagnosed what she thought was a sinus issue and gave you the correct treatment, which was she was taught, ensured, educated, and promoted to do. She did absolutely nothing wrong, but it was wrong because you had a gut issue and it made it worse. So like, I just think it's a really nice illustration of that, and it's not pointing the finger at anybody, but it's telling us that we have to take a bit more responsibility and maybe try and change things.
Yeah.
Would that be fair enough?
Yeah, I think that's perfectly fair. And I think it's just good to be talking about it. And
it's excellent. Yeah. And I'm really, really so passionate, and we had a phone call that lasted an hour last Friday, and you're clearly very passionate about this as well, and I talk about this a lot, and sometimes it sounds preachy and sometimes it sounds like I'm in the ivory tower saying this stuff and having a go. I'm having a go on anybody. I'm really passionate because I got a taste of this really early on when it came into Ireland, and it's not formally recognised. You can see what Wikipedia, I'm sure most of the board members in this country would agree with the Wikipedia definition, because there is a danger that somebody will employ the services of someone who doesn't have their best interest at heart and sell them something or stop them from going for a medical treatment. And that's what a major fear is here, that there are holes in this out there. This is not the holy grail of functional medicine. There's a lot of snake oil merchants out there selling dog shit, they just want to sell you something. However, that's not a good enough reason for me to completely discount it. So having more of these conversations. What I found really interesting, the first thing you said there was that opened your eyes when you went in and someone listened. I saw this thousands, not hundreds of times, thousands of times over the course of the years, when people would come in and they'd be listened to, and immediately they change because they've been to see 20 people before, and in their own individual rights, one of those individual people recommended something or whatever, and it didn't help. So they come to us completely worn down and upset and hopeless. And then someone listens to them and they're like, oh my God, you believe me? I was like, yeah, well, we don't know exactly what it is, but there's a process here. We get to the cause of it. There's loads of ways of going about this, and biomarkers and blood tests and lifestyle management and stuff, loads of things we can do here. And they're like, I thought there was nothing I could do. I was like, no, it's the opposite. There's loads. But we can't give you a really definitive answer straight away. It could be linked to your gut. It could be linked to your lifestyle. You could have a bad relationship with your partner, and that could be causing undue it's really, really deep, but we can do lots. And then the change in people's faces after that, like 5 minutes. Oh, okay, where do we start? And then there's a journey, and you're involved, and you're an active player in your own healthcare. You are, Fergus, sitting here in front of me right now. You're taking care of your own health, and you're managing your health. You're not a doctor. Like, you're not a scientist or an expert in any of this, and you're quite close to an expert in CBD, but you're actively playing a role in your own health. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. If we can do more of that. Jeez, that was a bit of a rant there.
No, I like it. And it's just looking back, like how uneducated I was probably going into that room at the time, where, and I didn't really know much about the gut and about how diet can affect things and about intolerances. And I feel like the gut is becoming talked about a lot more, but I still feel most people probably don't know about it. It's just because I'm involved in the space now and I'm hearing about it all the time. You kind of, that's what you're hearing about all the time. You expect everyone else to know about it. But I think there's still such a lack of education there around the gut and how it affects everything else. And again, if we can just put more money into preventative stuff, then we'd have to spend less of the time fighting the fires, as you say. Absolutely, yeah. Well, Mr. Fergus Kerrigan, at the risk of this becoming a monologue towards the end of me just going on a rant. Yeah, risk of both of us ranting here. We're not attacking anyone. Absolutely not. Would you mind just giving me a run through of the type of product that you sell and the people who might be able to benefit from it? Yeah, sure. So we've got a few of them here. Yeah, we started off with our Cbd oils. So they're our core range. Okay. That's what someone will take if they're suffering from one of the issues that we spoke about. So you'll have people come with chronic pain, sleep issues, kind of mild anxiety. They'd be the three main reasons why people would take it. But there's a lot of other inflammatory issues that they might use it for as well. So we have a balance range, which has the Cbd oil and ashwagandha. That's specifically designed to try help the body manage stress with that adaptogenic herb. Then we have a rest range, which again is more focused and targeted for sleep-related issues. It's got a chamomile extract in there with the CBD. So that was our first products. We then launched a range of teas. They're like herbal teas really, but just hemp is the base of them, and hemp is packed with vitamins. It's got its natural cannabinoids, chlorophyll, antioxidants. So it's like, wow. I think it's like herbal tea on steroid. Like it's it's herbal tea plus a bit extra. And then we've blended all our hemp teas with different adaptogenic herbs again. So the balanced one that you have there has tulsi in it, which is holy basil. It's used for kind of hundreds of years for kind of like clarity and mind space. So that's a really nice daytime tea. Again, we have a rest tea, which is used to drink about an hour or two before bed. Some people combine the oil with the tea. The tea is more of for milder symptoms, and it's to be treated literally like a herbal tea, but you will get some extra benefits from it. Whereas the oils are for more severe issues or for more pointed issues that you need to target. We've one other tea range as well called Active, which has organic green sencha in it. So it has a little bit of caffeine. It's meant to be like a replacement to a cup of coffee. So if you're having 2 or 3 cups a day, replace it out with one of these. It's a lovely, like, full-bodied green tea. It'll give you a little bit of alertness, but it's not like your kick. You know, some people get a little bit wiry off coffee. I think me too. If I try to cut it down to 1 a day, and then I have 1 cup of the
we're the 26th now. I'm 26 days into my coffee fast. I went off coffee for November. And I only have a cup a day.
You have a cup a day?
I have 1 cup. No, I don't now in November, but in general, my regular coffee will be a cup a day.
And how did you find that?
Amazing. It was easy for me because only a cup a day.
But
I'm super sensitive to caffeine, and I love a cup of coffee, but I love it for the taste. I never drank it for the kick or the caffeine, and I was super jittery. The second half of my day I was so unproductive because I was nervous and jittery and wasn't really able to focus that well, and I had a major crash off the caffeine. So that's the biggest difference I've noticed. I'm sleeping a bit better. Obviously, my mood is more consistent, stuff like that. I don't want to demonize caffeine at all here now. I think I love coffee, and I think caffeine is a very, very effective ergogenic aid. But again, context is really important. And I was going to say, while you were mentioning your teas and stuff like this, you did say there, like, it's like a replacement for a herbal tea or a coffee or something like that. I speak about this sometimes with like nootropics and things like that, where people take these substances. CBD would fall into this and herbal teas, and it didn't do anything for me. But this is somebody who might be on 10 cups of coffee a day and it's like, go, and they're looking for a real boost and pick me up, and they're using massive doses of caffeine. So they're completely desensitized to anything. I will, like, when I mentioned, for example, when I took the Four Sigmatic coffee, I noticed the effects of the ashwagandha in there because I'm so sensitive, because I take almost nothing ever, and I had 1 cup of coffee a day. So I was really, really sensitive and really was able to notice, okay, there's definitely something different here. Similarly, like every now and again, I'll use Tau, which is a nootropic. I didn't take one today, but for podcasts and stuff like that, just for the clarity. And loads of people who've taken nootropics, I don't notice anything. They're so used to massive amounts of energy, and I wouldn't be used to that. So when I take a Tau, I'm on. Like, I'm on all day, and like, I notice that I like that product. But similarly, people who take these products, it's one of those things. It's unfortunate that some people will take. I didn't do anything for me. I didn't sleep well. Sleep is massively complex. CBD is not going to make you sleep. It's not a sleeping tablet.
Sleep is so complex, and that's the one we get. If we ever get feedback from customers, like negative feedback, it's normally related to sleep. And then we try to talk to them, because just there's so many factors that play with sleep. Like, your sleep routine starts the minute you get up. So we normally try to get on a call with them to see what else is going on. And we have a couple of other sleep guides that we share with them. But as you said, it's part of a wider kind of tool set that you need to sleep better.
And you mentioned the word supplement. These are intended to supplement a healthy lifestyle.
That's it. They're on. That's what on the back of
it. Is it on the back?
Is it on the teas? It's definitely on the. It's definitely on the oils. No, because this is actually treated as a food, whereas that's a food supplement.
Okay.
So you'll see there, it's always like to support a balanced daily lifestyle.
Food supplements should not be used as a substitute for a varied diet. Yeah. And just to put this in context again for people, this is like you going to the functional medicine doctor. She gave you CBD, not changing your diet or your lifestyle at all, taking CBD and then saying, pseudoscience. She's a quack. That's what
would have happened.
It's what would have happened.
Exactly.
And it's what does happen. Yeah.
So it's the blended approach. And as you say, people are more sensitive to, like you're sensitive to caffeines. People are more sensitive to CBD than others. And some people will notice a benefit very quickly. For others, we always recommend, like, because a lot of people come to us that have tried everything else and they're in a bit of a spot. So we always recommend they give it 4 to 6 weeks of consistent use. So consistency is the key, that you take it every day. There's no point of taking it today and then taking it next Wednesday and wondering why. So consistency is the key, that you're taking it every day. You're letting it build up in your body, interacting with your endocannabinoid system as much as possible. And just give it a period of time. It can sometimes be useful to journal it as well. How did I feel last month? Has that issue or symptom that I've been taking for, has it improved? That, because sometimes it can be hard to judge between now and next month and have I seen any change, but some people will notice quite an immediate benefit. It varies.
Yeah, that's super advice in general, a bit of reflection, and anything you're doing, but obviously anything you put in your body as well, you need to reflect on it, because like, I don't know about you, but my short-term memory is brutal. I forget, I don't know what I did yesterday. So unless I'm reflecting on it, I'll never know, did I make a change that positively impacted my life? And I think you said this before, because it sounds, and I'm going to protect you, I'm going to guard you here, because it sounds like a business sales pitch. You need to take it forever, or take it over 6 weeks.
Yeah.
It sounds like that. However, vitamins, maybe you mentioned this on Pat Dibley's podcast, or I heard it somewhere else. You don't take vitamin C and expect to feel amazing tomorrow. It's something to supplement your lifestyle, and it takes time for your body to adapt and to regulate the levels, and for you to figure out, is this the right dosage for me? Should I be taking fish oils? If you take a fish oil, my brain going to double in size tomorrow? Absolutely not. You're making a lifestyle choice. Just like you can't give up drink for one day and expect health benefits. You make lifestyle choices, and this is a lifestyle choice. It's a supplement as part of your habits and routine. So I just think it's important to say that.
Yeah, with
it's
all
not a sales
supplements.
pitch.
Yeah, exactly. It's not. And with all...
It's a good sales pitch, though.
Thanks. No, like with all supplements, you have to give it the time.
Yeah.
And if you're looking for a quick fix like that, that's a food supplement, isn't it? And for some people, they will get unbelievable benefits, and they'll take it forever. And for some people, it won't work for. Now that's the reality. And unfortunately, we don't get all the data of what other people are doing in their lives. We try as much. Like we recently, like I've got on the phone with 30 of our customers, to actually find out like how they're taking it, when they're taking it, what they were taking it for, how much they take, is it working? How quickly did it take to work? All these other lifestyle factors, so we can kind of better design our service and the products. So that was a very useful exercise. And like I suppose for any business, when I was working in management consulting, like we used a technique called design thinking. And it's all about starting with the customer. So building a persona of who your customer is, what are their needs, their desires, their frustrations, and what they want. If you can build that perspective or that persona and be empathetic to who they are, then you should start to design your service or your products or whatever you do in business. This can apply to any business. For you as well, at your podcast, like who's your listener, and that can inform your setup, who you get on, that kind of thing. So that's very useful. That was very useful conversations I had with our customers. So we learned a bit more about them.
My last question about CBD: how does it taste? Because the one thing, it's very, very strong.
You have to taste it and let me know. Go for it.
I'll taste it at the end.
That tastes really nice. It's flavored with a tiny bit of spearmint essential oil that just gives it like this mild minty taste, because it does have to be palatable.
Yeah, because a lot of CBD products are
fairly manky. People don't like that hempy taste sometimes. I don't mind taking something if it tastes, like with cider vinegar.
If you know it's good for you.
If you know it's good for you. But then other people, they just don't like the taste. So again, to encourage that consistent use, you need to make it palatable. But that one will... I think you'll like the taste of it.
I'll definitely give it a go. Give it a go after. I'll put it on camera actually for the end of the podcast. For people who, obviously, if they want to buy the product, they can go on the website.
Yeah, ethos-cbd.com. Or it's in health food stores, most good health food stores around Ireland, and then a few pharmacies, and then it's in a few coffee shops and artisan food stores and stuff as well, especially the teas. But yeah, the website is probably the place to go, or our Instagram, ethos.cbd, to just get any information or if any questions, because it is new for people. So we love answering questions. So if you have any questions, just...
This is what I'm going to say. You don't mind people reaching out and
asking
questions?
DM, and that's what we get constantly.
DM, okay.
Yeah, that's the best way to do it. Or you can get our email. But we're there to answer questions about it, because we realise it's new, it can be confusing. So we welcome any questions, definitely.
I love it.
Yeah.
I'll put all of your information onto our website as well underneath this episode too.
Yeah, I think we're going to do discount for
brilliant,
your listeners.
amazing.
Yeah.
People, listen up, you're getting stuff. So
so I think we'll do 15% discount.
15% discount.
Yeah, we'll maybe call it Primal 15 or something.
Perfect.
But you can maybe share it after, and then we can do it. When's this going live?
This will be on Tuesday, next Tuesday.
Tuesday. Yeah. So we can do it maybe up until Christmas or something like that. So anyone's listening to.
Thank you so much.
Might be a good first time to try them if they've been thinking about trying it. But
You're very generous.
No bother at all.
Really
Thanks
appreciate
for
that. And thanks for bringing in all the products on the lovely new beanie here now as well. Mr. Fergus Kerrigan, we laughed, we cried, we went deep down the rabbit hole, we discussed conspiracy, but most importantly, I learned loads and really enjoyed that conversation. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks a million for having me. It's a delight to be here.
Thanks so much for coming on, and we'll catch up with you in the future as Ethos starts to grow and expand.
Hopefully.
Yeah. Mind yourself.
All right, cheers.
Thanks a million, guys, for listening. Really appreciate your time as always. And thanks again to Mr. Fergus Kerrigan. What an interesting episode and such a lovely guy. As Fergus said, if you have any questions about what we spoke about today, do reach out to him on Instagram or reach out to us here at Primal at PrimalPro, PRYMALPRO, for any more information. We love getting your questions, comments and feedback. And if you're watching on YouTube, please do subscribe to the channel because it makes a massive difference and really helps us grow and bring you more content like this. Now, I did say in the episode there that I was going to do a taste test on Fergus's CBD oil. He's given me the Ethos Rest CBD oil. And as far as I know, this one has chamomile and spearmint in it. So for me, this is a taste test because I haven't had great experiences with CBD oils before. If you're listening, apologies for the ASMR sounds. And if you're watching, you can kind of check this out. So immediately, I'm not going to make you wait the 40 to 60 seconds. I can tell you straight away, lovely spearmint taste off that, and much more pleasant than many CBD products I've tried. As I said, this is not a sponsored post. I just really like the taste of this stuff. So thanks again, Fergus. Really appreciate you coming on. Thank you for listening. And make sure you check out Ethos CBD for all of your CBD needs. And remember, Fergus did give us a 15% discount. So enjoy. Thanks for listening, guys. Chat to you next time.